Well, we're going to jump into now the suitability rubric. So as Amy shared, the job of y'all this weekend is going to be focused a lot on standards alignment. We're going to look at those TEKs, look at those ELPs, and see, do these materials cover what the publisher says they cover, and are they aligned to our state standards? Part of the new IMRA process, and I say new because it was part of a law passed in 2023, is that you as reviewers are now also reviewing for different facets of these materials more than just TEKs alignment. So I'm Colin Dempsey, again, the District Operations, Technology, Sustainability Supports. It's a mouthful, we just say DOTS. But essentially, my team and I are charged with the instructional materials funding. So this is how districts buy all of these books after they're reviewed. We're also charged with reviewing the materials with y'all this weekend and every year. So excited to have you here. When thinking about the laws and rules in Texas, it gets a bit convoluted, and you might wonder, how'd y'all come up with this suitability rubric anyways? And all of it is predicated on statute and administrative codes. So we're going to cover that quickly today. Maybe you'll take a fun fact to take home to your family about the legislature. So we'll start with the Texas Education Code. The Texas Education Code, or TEC, states laws passed by the Texas legislature related to public education. You can buy it on Amazon in 3 volumes if you'd like, but it's also available online. It's updated every odd-numbered year after our legislature meets, so I think some bills are going through right now as they're meeting. And then at the close of this, hopefully only one session, the Texas Education Code is updated every 2 years. Inside of that, or some of those statutes then give authority to agencies and other bodies to create rules. So we have statute that is passed by the legislature, and then we have administrative code that is passed by agencies and other bodies, including the State Board of Education. The Texas Administrative Code, I think, has a cooler cover. But this is published about every week, where agencies, as they come up with more and more rules or remove rules, publish the actions that have been taken by agencies around the state. This is where your TEKs live. So TEKs live in the Texas Administrative Code. That's why you see those numbers next to them, because they're listing the chapters and subchapters of where you'd find those rules. And so what can I find in Education Code? Chapter 31 of Education Code is all related to instructional materials. If you want to ask about, I could spend a whole dinner talking about Chapter 31 if you're interested, but most people aren't. But this is generally what it does. It outlines the requirements for districts to provide free instructional materials to all students to cover all of the TEKs and ELPs and pre-kindergarten standards, or guidelines rather. It establishes the funding for instructional materials and technology in the state, and also outlines this new instructional materials review and approval process. Other things in code that impact our process this weekend would be Chapter 28. This outlines what are the things that Texas students need to learn in the state of Texas, and this is set by the State Board of Education, authority given to the State Board of Education by the legislature, and outlines the required curriculum for kinder through 12th grade, and also outlines the requirements for the board to set certain standards for special topics. And so if you're wondering how'd y'all come up with this stuff, it's because we are taking directives from our elected officials in the statute, turning that into rules, and then applying those rules here this weekend. And so we're going to get into some of those rules that apply to you all now that you are working for the state as an IMRA reviewer. One of the statutes that also has a lot of rules related to it is our instructional materials process. So the standards alignment percentage, the requirement that those full subject course materials cover 100% of the TEKs is outlined in Texas code. The requirement that we review for suitability is outlined in statute as well as quality review. The requirement that materials be free of factual errors, the physical and electronic specifications. We don't want the book to fall apart as soon as a kindergartner opens it on the first day, making sure that the binding is good, the paper's the right quality. And then the parent portal, requiring that publishers host these materials in an open way so that parents and families can access those materials without having to make an appointment with the school. And so again, all of this came out of our 88th legislative session in 2023, signed into law by the governor. And in the past 2 years, we've been working to stand up this process. This is only our second year, and we're already this big. And if you remember that chart that Amy showed you earlier of the years and years that we're going to grow, this room will only get larger as we review more and more products year over year as part of this review. So now you gotta listen because there's a quiz after this, so make sure you're paying attention. The rules for y'all as reviewers are outlined in Texas Code in Chapter 67. If you turn to the back of your IMRA book, y'all have this one. I have the math one, but it's all the way in the back. And they change page numbers. But if you're math, it's page 292, is 19 TAC 67.29, IMRA reviewers, training, duties, and conduct. And these are a set of rules to protect you as a reviewer, to protect the integrity of the instructional materials review, and to protect publishers and SBOE members as we're trying to have a fair and transparent process while we're reviewing these materials. If you can't find it in your book, it will be on screen, so no need to worry. But the first rule of import is please don't accept bribes, right? I know it seems simple. We do have publishers here. I don't think any of them are going to plan to offer them, but we want to make sure that we state it. Do not accept meals, entertainment, gifts, swag bags, gratuities from a state board member, from a publisher or an author or a depository, that's places that store all the books that publishers make and then they ship them, agents for publishers, other authors who represent those publishers, or any person who holds an official position with publishers, authors, depositories, or their agents. Essentially, you should only be talking to the folks at your tables and in this room who have the right name tag on, right? You want to make sure that you're not, there's not the appearance of a bribe or an actual bribe taken. So that's rule number one. Next, you're only going to discuss the materials you are reviewing in official meetings, whether that is as you're doing your quality review on Zoom or you're here in person. You're welcome to share with other folks, hey, I'm an IMRA reviewer, I am reviewing K-12 math, but you won't be disclosing the product that you're reviewing until after the review has concluded. So that means, if you ever served on a jury, right, you're sequestered sometimes. Same thing here. You're welcome to share about your experience, you're welcome to share about the training, post a picture of me on Twitter if you'd like, but please do not post your material. Why? Well, we don't want publishers knowing your identities so that they aren't able to give you a bribe or influence you, and vice versa, to protect your anonymity. So as a reviewer, we want to make sure that you have the independence and autonomy to make the calls as you see them, because we hired you, because you are the experts, the subject matter experts. And we want to make sure that those discussions stay in the room and there is no undue influence from outside forces. And so, if you're on TikTok, that's awesome, but please don't post about your product when you get it later this afternoon. If you're on Instagram, same thing. But as you're posting, you can say, I'm an IMRA reviewer. I'm excited to be here in Houston for the IMRA review. I love my team. I thought Amy's session was really awesome. Right, you can say all those things, but we're going to avoid talking about the product that you are assigned. And again, we stated it twice because we liked it so much inside of the statute, but you're not going to be speaking with SBOE members about the product. You can talk about the weather. You can talk about traffic in Houston. You can do lots of things, but you're not going to be talking about your product unless you are invited for specific testimony, or it's after the review is concluded. You might recall that timeline slide that Amy shared, that the board will make an official vote in November on these products, and that's when, after that time, you'll be able to communicate with other folks about, oh, well, I'm the one that reviewed that product, and this is what I felt. So there is this no contact period to try and help with that. Again, we're drawing the line, we're building the fence around ourselves to protect everyone as part of this process. Publishers, agency staff, board members, reviewers alike. And so during this time, you're going to be observing that no contact period. It's why we were emphasizing the color of the name tag, right? Check that first before you start disclosing what you're doing to make sure that you're not going to violate this. Now, this no contact. I got a lot of questions last year to say, I'm on the textbook selection committee for my district, and I often talk to publishers. Does that mean I can't speak with publishers? No. That's part of a different job duty. You just won't be discussing your part of the IMRA review. You're still allowed to seek advice from other educators, other parents, other content experts. If the SBUE invites you for testimony at one of their meetings between now and November, or if you're attending another conference, I don't know why you want to dedicate all your time to IMRA review, but if you're doing something else, that's okay. But just want to make sure that people are observing this no contact period. If you see something, or someone tries to offer you something, and you're not sure, go ahead and report it to us. We'd rather know than not know. Sometimes it's a new publisher, sometimes it's new reviewers, they're not sure, there might be a gray area. Please let us know, and you're bound by the statute to report it to us. So inside of your IMRA reviewer help desk, there is a selection to report a violation of the no contact. And so if that happens this weekend or over the course of the summer, please let us know. You're not going to be in trouble, we promise. But we need to know so that we can either have a conversation with that publisher or with the parties involved to make sure that everyone is aware of the rules and isn't violating this no contact period. Here comes the quiz. Pull out your phone for me. You're going to scan a QR code. If it works, question, what would you do? During your lunch break, after my talk, at the Kickoff conference, an IMRA reviewer is approached by a representative from a publishing company. The representative offers the reviewer a branded tote bag filled with snacks and coffee mugs and a $25 gift card as a thank you for your hard work this weekend. Scan the QR code, vote for your answer. It'll show up on your phone. And if the technology works, the bars will change as people vote. So are you going to accept the gift as a token of appreciation since it's not cash, it's harmless, it's only 25 bucks? Are you going to politely decline, which sounds like someone has already voted, 25 people, the gift and report the interaction to us? And the other answers are going away because all of you are getting it correct. Yes, this is an example of where you as a reviewer should report that interaction in our IMRA help desk. They can wish you well, but they cannot be giving you anything material. Even if it's below a certain threshold, we need to make sure that we are maintaining that no contact period. So I'm going to assume our 1% accidentally hit the wrong button and that our check for understanding is good. So we're going to move on. Question 2. An IMRA reviewer receives an email from a well-known association of teachers inviting them to give a presentation about their experience as a reviewer. The presentation would take place before the final list is posted on the SBUE website, but your friend at the association said, it's totally fine, we're not going to ask you about the products, we're just wanting to know informally like how the review worked, but we just want to know. Cue the Jeopardy music. You have to scan a new one. Will you accept the invitation as long as they discuss the review only, decline, accept, request a presentation scheduled after? Ooh. There's 600 of y'all, so we'll wait for at least half. $15 more. There we go. All right. This one's a tough one, right? We said you can share that you're an IMRA reviewer, but please don't talk about your product. In this case, we would want you to do what the majority have said here. Decline the invitation and report the contact in that form. The reason being is that in that administrative code, there is a rule about not sharing with groups like the one mentioned in the question. And even if you accept the invitation, but afterwards, just go ahead, you need to tell us about it. so that at least we know. We'd rather know than not know. And so again, making sure that any type of invitation to talk about your experience, just let us know first, and then we can let you know if, yeah, that's good or not, and if it's appropriate to do that before the list is posted or after your experience as an IMRA reviewer. We had people stand who were return folks who joined us last year and came back. We want that to happen a lot. Recruitment, it takes a lot to recruit all y'all, so we'd rather you come back. And so you might be asked to share about your experience with folks at your district, or we might ask you to help us recruit for folks next year, where you should be sharing about your experience. But again, during this no contact period, you're going to be mindful of that and make sure that you are following those directions. So, what did we learn? Our legislature sets our laws. We elect them. They set those laws. From those laws come the authority for agencies and other bodies to set administrative code, which we call informally rules here, and that these laws and rules regarding state contractors, you all now, you're now agents, welcome, now apply to you as IMRA reviewers. And so this is the least exciting presentation, so thanks you all for hanging with me on how not to take a bribe. So yeah, we'll move on from this one and jump into now our suitability rubric. Okay. And we're ahead of time. We're going to get to lunch early. All right. Suitability rubric. So again, you have a dual role during this review. You're going to be reviewing for the quality and content, but then you're also going to be asked to review for suitability. You're not the only one looking for suitability. There's another team that will fill your table in 2 weeks from now who's going to look at the same set of products and only look for suitability. But we want to make sure that you all are familiar with it. Amy said this earlier, right? If you see something, we need you to report the flag. It helps improve the product for teachers and students at the end of this process. It helps the publishers to be aware of where there might be great or not so great things in their materials, and also helps the board members at the end of the day discern about how they're going to take a vote on these materials in November. And so I mentioned earlier that bill that passed in 2023. It was called House Bill 1605. And it did these 5 basic things. On the left-hand side, do I have a laser? I do. All right. On the left-hand side, it created this new instructional materials review process where we're checking for TEKS coverage. You've already started quality. And then we had this piece about suitable for the grade and subject. And that's really what the suitability rubric helps us to do. Makes it less subjective and more objective of what we're looking for inside of these materials. Some other things that House Bill 1605 established was this parent transparency piece, putting all of those things online for parents to see, as well as updating some of the TEKS and teacher protections around instructional materials. And again, you've seen this slide a lot. You'll keep seeing it. But as part of the review, we're going to focus on this box right now on whether these materials are suitable and appropriate. And so, as I was mentioning, we have statutes, Chapter 31, back to my friend. It says, before approving instructional material, the board, meaning the State Board of Education, may review the material and must determine that the material is free from factual error, right? 2 + 2 is 4 and not 3, and suitable for the subject and grade level for which the material is designed. That's pretty vague, right? And so part of the directions from the legislature when this bill was passed, and it modified Chapter 31 to read this way, was that the board would establish their own rubric, approve that rubric, and give it to y'all. And then you would apply that rubric during this review. And so it's also in your book if you want to go ahead and look for it, the suitability rubric. I believe it's towards the back. But the suitability rubric has the goal of providing guidance for determining that the instructional material is, quote, suitable for the subject and grade level, and that the rubric is arranged by category with suitability indicator and corresponding guidance supporting the indicator. Now, raise your hand if you remember this in your pre-training. Sort of. Great. And we're going to cover it again so that we definitely remember it. The document is broken up into three basic parts. Part one is this cover page that talks about which materials are required to be reviewed for suitability and how we're going to score that thing. And then we have the two main sections. The first section is suitability prohibitions. These are things we do not want to see in our products, right? A flag here is a red flag. We don't want that. Then we have section 2, which are suitability excellence requirements. So these are things that the board has expressed by passing this rubric. They do want to see included inside of our instructional materials in the state. Green flag, good things, right? You want to have a lot of flags in section 2 if you're a publisher. You do not want to have a lot of flags in section 1 if you're a publisher, right? You're wanting to make sure that your materials are don't have any prohibited content, but also are meeting the excellence requirements that are outlined in the rubric. Easy way to tell them apart, dark blue is section 1, light blue is section 2 as you're looking through these rubrics. So let's look at the structure of the rubric just to help get you all oriented. Number 1, we have that section title. Like I said, there's section 1, which is not good flags, section 2, good flags. Next, we have the category. There are 7 categories inside of the rubric, and so that's just the heading to help break it up into its parts. Then we have our subcategory. This is where you'll see the 1.1 or 2.1 structure, so that's the number. You'll have the actual indicator, and then you'll have guidance. There are occasions where the board, in writing the rubric, referenced penal code or Texas Family Code or education code, and so the guidance tries to put some of those statutory legalese, if you will, into friendlier language, because we know that parents and others are going to be applying this rubric besides y'all in this room, and want to make that friendlier to work with. So we're just going to cover the rubric section by section, and then we'll close out by showing you how you're going to flag materials throughout the weekend if you see something, as well as when you go home and you continue the quality review throughout the summer. So like I shared, there are 7 total categories. The first is prohibition on Common Core. The second would be alignment with public education's constitutional goal. The third would be parental rights and responsibilities. The fourth is a prohibition on forced political activity, meant to shield students from forced political activity inside of the lesson, protecting children's innocence, promoting sexual risk avoidance, and compliance with the Children's Internet Protection Act, or CIPA. So we'll start with section 1. Again, these are the flags that you don't want to see these things inside of the materials. If you do, over the course of your review this weekend, you should be flagging it. We have 2 categories of flags. We have bad flags, good flags, and then another subset, right? The first is a specific flag. Let's say there is one image that you think, that's not great for a 3rd grader. I don't think that should be in here. But it's not repeated anywhere else in the materials. That would be a specific localized flag. We only see that problem one time. The other is a thematic application. As you're reading, you see that every single lesson is actually referencing Common Core at the start of the teacher instructions. You see it in lesson 1, lesson 5, lesson 10, all the way through the book. That would be a thematic flag. That saves you all from having to, flag every single time you see it. But we do require that you provide evidence for at least 3 citations if you're quoting a thematic flag. So if I did see that example of Common Core, I would pull 3 citations and say, it's right here in this lesson, it's referenced in this student activity in lesson further in the book, and here's the 3rd time that I've seen it. I'm going to go ahead and call it and say this is a thematic flag. That cuts down on the amount of responses a publisher has to make, where they can make a global change and just say, we're going to remove all of that, and that's easier than a lot of very specific flags. So there might be instances where you say, oh, I've only seen that once. And then a day later, you see it twice, and 3 times, and 4 times. Your review managers are going to help you with spotting those, so that if you do have a specific flag that's suddenly become thematic, we can go and help you redo that in the form so that we're giving publishers the most accurate information. Publishers will see these flags as you all enter them. They won't see your information. They'll just see that a flag was raised from an IMRA reviewer about their product. This form is also open to the public currently. So as folks who are looking at the materials over this summer during our open comment period can do the same, and publishers will also get notified as those comments come in from the public for them to address. The publishers are required to address it. They can say, thanks, but no thanks, we don't agree, which is fine. Or they can say, we accept that, we're going to change it, here's our proposed change. And so either way, publishers are required to respond to your feedback as an IMRA team, as well as the public's. So let's get to that example of prohibition on Common Core. Here, and I'm going to jump to the suitability guidance because I think it's the best plain language on this side. Materials do not reference or allude to, quote, Common Core state standards, end quote, explicitly or implicitly. The materials, terminology, instructional methodology, and assessment styles predominantly display alignment with the TEKS, where appropriate. Materials are aligned to the TEKS, okay? Y'all are Texas educators. You work with the TEKS. You may have participated in TEKS rewrites and revisions. You may have worked in this process before. You know what the TEKS and ELPs look like, sound like inside of the materials. And you know that there's some words that nationally referenced Common Core standards use, academic vocabulary that they use that we do not use in our TEKS as practitioners. And so those are going to be the types of things to look out for as you're reviewing your materials and want to flag those if you do see them. Next is alignment with public education's constitutional goal. This is the meatiest section, all right? This has a lot of subcategories and sub-suitability indicators. And so we'll start again on the right-hand side, that we want to make sure that we're preparing students for self-governance, and that consists of cultivating in students an informed American patriotism and leading students in a close study of the founding documents of the United States and Texas to achieve the following objectives, and we list them there. This category is repeated in the suitability excellence in the good flags, because we want to see this stuff inside of the materials. If you're raising a red flag or a prohibition, that means you see something counter to the statement inside of this part of the rubric. So you either see something that is counter to American patriotism or leading students not in a close study of the founding documents where you think they could. This subcategory continues and gives you more definitions about how you should flag violence if it appears in the context of your materials. Perhaps there's a history lesson in one of the reading language arts products, and violence is presented. That might be appropriate, but when in doing so, we want to make sure that it's not presenting violence for reasons of unwholesome excitement or sensationalism. So, right, it's not violence for violence sake, but it was part of a movement or part of a balanced approach in history. Again, this is going to be up to y'all's discernment, right? We trust you all as educators, and we want you to flag something if you see it. And you might not have any flags during your review. That's okay. But just want to make sure that folks are aware of the rubric and know where to look for things as they're approaching the products this week. Again, the board has outlined not encouraging or condoning products. We don't want to see them encouraging or condoning current activities that promote civil disorder, social strife, or disregard for the law. This section doesn't prohibit a teacher from teaching about it. It can be there. It's just if it is, it needs to be done as examples of demonstrations such as peaceful protests or boycotting. Then we get to subcategory 2.2, which basically gives you a list of thou shall nots, right? We don't want to promote one race or sex as inherently superior to another race or sex, that an individual by virtue of the race or sex is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, consciously or unconsciously. An individual should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment solely or partly because of that individual's race or sex. An individual's moral character, standing, or worth is necessarily determined by the individual's race or sex, or an individual by virtue of their race or sex bears responsibility, blame, or guilt for actions committed by other members of that race or sex. These rules are based in the statute there of 28.0022. And so the board, knowing that that's part of statute, bakes that into the rubric. And so if you do see any of these indicators, it's your responsibility to flag it for the board member. and for the general public, because we make all these flags available to school districts and parents who might want to know what y'all thought of the materials as you were working through them. We continue with 2.26 about not wanting to see traits such as seeing meritocracy or traits such as hard work ethic are racist or sexist or were created by members of a particular race. And then we get into some components of slavery in the territory that is now the United States. On the right-hand side, we have some more guidance here related to the 1619 project. Basically, if you see any components of that 1619 project, and we have the links there in your books if you need more further reading, you'd want to flag that for the board members because it's something that they've indicated they'd like to know about if it is in the materials. Then we have 2.28 with respect to their relationship to American values. Slavery and racism are anything other than deviations from, betrayals of, or failures to live up to an authentic founding principles of the United States, which include liberty and equality. Again, we have some more explication that we carried down to the rubric for you on the right-hand side. And then we have the final one, which is 2.29 of not including or incorporating those 1619 project materials in what you see. Now, if you're reviewing a K-3 phonics product, are you likely to see this? Probably not, but you should still have your eyes open for it and make sure that you are flagging it if you do see it. Category 3 is about parental rights and responsibilities. The instructional material should not does not recognize or contradict that the parents have the right to direct the moral and religious training, right? So if there's anything inside the materials that might contradict that statement, you need to flag it for members. Then we have our section on prohibition on forced political activity. The instructional material should not compel teachers to discuss a widely debated and currently controversial topic and support teachers who choose to discuss them with material that allows them to explore both sides of that topic. The instructional materials does not award grade or course credit, including extra credit, for a student who works for, is affiliated with, or service learning in association with an organization engaged in these things: lobbying and legislation, social or public policy, social policy advocacy, political activism, or participation in any internship, practicum, or otherwise involving public policy. Again, this is probably more likely in a CTE course that requires a practicum, but it's something that you'll want to look out for as you're reviewing your materials. Then we have section 5, which gets to protecting children's innocence. This section has lots of definitions, so if you're unsure what they mean by harmful material, we have a definition in statute. And so we've added that here for y'all to reference. Instructional materials should not include harmful material. They should not include obscene material. They should not include things that are pervasively vulgar or educationally unsuitable. And again, those definitions are in code and part of your packet materials. Then we have, continuing with protecting children's innocence, the IM does not include sexually explicit material. The IM does not include sexually relevant material or, to a requirement of the TEKS, meaning unless you're teaching human sexuality, you really shouldn't see this stuff at all, right? And again, we had one flag of this in the 300 plus products that we did last year. It's rare, but again, it's something to look out for if you do see it. Category 6, if you raise your hand if you're reviewing a pre-K through 3rd grade product. And we have some math folks over here. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. You should not see any of this in anything pre-K through 3rd grade. If you see it, flag it. Raise your hand if you're reviewing something 4th grade and up. Great. I don't think you would see this either, but if you do see it, you need to apply the next part of the rubric to what you see, right? Making sure that if there is instruction on human sexuality, again, would this be in a stats book? Maybe not. But you need to be looking out for it. And if it does include it, then it needs to be presenting abstinence from sexual activity as the preferred choice. It needs to devote more attention to abstinence than any other behavior, sexual activity than any other behavior. It needs to emphasize abstinence from sexual activity if used consistently and correctly. It's the only method that 100% effective in preventing pregnancy, STDs, infection with HIV or AIDS, and the emotional trauma associated with adolescent sexual activity. Goes on defining what we do and do not want to see. If there is instruction on human sexuality, again, it is not likely. However, we want to make sure that folks are aware. Category 7, I think, is the trickiest one to deal with because the Children's Internet Protection Act is lengthy, federal law, and not something that all of us have memorized, nor should you. And so we've given you some a lot more sub-indicators here to help you with that. First, we want to make sure that the instructional materials allow a school to be compliant with SIPA, and then we list the things in SIPA that make them compliant, right? Materials including digital and computer-generated images are devoid of visual depictions that are obscene, pornographic, or harmful, which we've already touched on. No visuals should hint or allude to sexually explicit content, especially with minors. The content is age-appropriate, aligning with the intended audience's maturity. So what might work for a kindergartner, what might not work for a kindergartner might work for an 8th grader. So that's up to your all's discernment. This is the big one. External online resources, if linked, align with SIPA standards. All linked resources are pre-screened to ensure they don't host or redirect to non-compliant content. We want to look for backdoors in the products that you're reviewing. If they are linking to a YouTube video, we want to make sure that that YouTube video is also vetted as part of the instructional materials. We don't want to have a way for a child to go clicking and getting into things we don't need children to be getting into as part of the instructional materials. And we have some enterprising, intelligent students in Texas. And if they can find a way, they're going to go find stuff. So we want to make sure that that's locked down. So if you see any links that are going to external sites, it might be the way that the publisher has set up the materials for you to review. Either way, you're going to want to flag it, just so the publisher might respond and say, that won't be in the final version, but we want to make sure that we're checking it. The other thing we're looking for are user-generated sections, so places where there might be interactivity between a student and they're maybe typing back and forth with someone. We want to make sure that there are clear guidelines for moderation, and that's a supervised activity and not a child doing it on their own. And that, again, you all aren't likely going to see this, but making sure that if there are continuous updates to a material, that they continue to align with SIPA and don't come out of violation. Those are the bad flags. So if you see any of that, you're going to flag it as part of your materials. Then we have our suitability excellence indicators. There's only 2 categories here, and you've already seen both of them, right? So 2.1, in a way fitting, we want to do these things. We want to see that we are increasing students' knowledge of the deepest and noblest purposes of the United States and Texas. We need to enhance students' intellectual independence so that students may become thoughtful, informed citizens who have an appreciation for the fundamental democratic principles of our state and national heritage, including as a constitutional republic, and the materials guide students toward an understanding and functioning productively in a free enterprise society. This might show up in lots of ways. If you're reviewing a math product, it might be a word problem in a math product. It might be an economics-based problem that talks about capitalism. Or talks about a free enterprise society. If you're in a phonics product, I'm not sure as much if that will come up, but if it does, we want to flag it because these are the things that the board has indicated that we want baked into the products that are going to go out to 5.5 million students across the state. So again, flagging those things as we see them. Suitability excellence 6.2 is 6.25. Again, this is not, sexual risk avoidance topics are typically not in a phonics product, but again, we need to look for it. And if they are including that, if the publisher does decide to include them in their products, that they're framing it in the correct way per the rubric. So, time check here. Great. So let's jump into how you all are actually going to flag these things. So now that we've looked over the rubric, how are you actually going to operationalize and let us know and let the publishers know what you've seen? During the review, each of you are going to be reviewing the materials, and your suitability flags are independent. You do not have to vote with your partners at your table in order to flag something. If you see something and you feel in your personal conviction and in your subject matter expertise that that should be flagged, you need to flag it. You do not have to, you can confer with your table or with your reviewers, other reviewers on your team, but not required. So this is an independent activity, and you might be the lone person that thinks that it might be a violation, and that's okay. Go ahead and flag that, because the more information that publishers and the board members have at the end of this review, the better. And so again, this is a group effort. This is a group project, right? Y'all are the orange here. So you're going to be doing standard alignment today, same time looking for factual error and the quality review. But you're also doing suitability within this, right? So just because we have this purple bar of suitability, folks, doesn't get y'all off the hook. We're all looking for suitability concerns while we get our way to a final review product report. So again, your all's job. The suitability teams are going to focus only on suitability. They're not going to touch your all's stuff, right? They're not going to be doing TEKS alignment or quality review. They're only looking for suitability, and they'll start that in a couple of weeks right here in this room. Quality reviewers, again, if you see something, say something. So you're going to be looking at every single page inside of these materials. You'll become deeply familiar with all of your products. And so therefore, if you're in there, we want to know what you're seeing. And so that's why we're asking of you all to do this task of flagging if you do see it coming across your review. And so again, anyone who sees something is obligated to report it as a flag. So how are we going to do that? If you've been working with us, which you all have over the past month, you might have noticed that we use the application Smartsheet frequently. And so we're using a similar Smartsheet form in order for you to look at suitability. You feel free to scan the QR code if you want to look at it. We'll flag everything that comes in right now as dummy data, so you can kind of work through the form. So I'll give you all a second. But as you're reviewing, let's say that you come across what you perceive as either a positive or a negative flag. You're going to open the form, which you'll have on your desktop, and select. Is this going to be a Section 1 flag, meaning it's a prohibited content, or a Section 2 flag? And you'll use the drop-down to make a selection. The survey will then grow and give you more things to enter, including your reviewer role, whether you're a quality or suitability reviewer. You'll input your name. Again, this is not information we pass on to the publishers. It's so that we can come back and ask a question if we're not quite clear on the citation or around the meaning, or if we need to go find one that you flagged as specific and, oh, suddenly it needs to be thematic, right? So we just need your information to help us with that. You'll select the grade level of your product, which will generate some publisher names. And essentially, you'll drill down to the product that you're reviewing, all the way down to the particular component. So if it's in the teacher guide, we need to know it's in the teacher guide. Please don't just say, it's in the 3rd grade math product. It's not helpful for the publisher. It's not helpful for the board. We need to get as specific as possible, and where possible, provide the standard book number, the ISBN, or the product component number. The most helpful is provide the URL that will be inside of your portal as you're reviewing. So if you can give us the hyperlink, that lets everyone know right where to go to see what you're seeing and what might be of concern for you. So again, we're going to look at specific flags and thematic flags. If you say this is just a one-time thing, it's going to ask you for your citation evidence. Like all good writers, we use evidence to communicate our point. We should with suitability flags as well. And so when looking at that form, it's going to ask you for a page number. Please indicate if it's the page of the PDF or the page that is printed on the PDF. That is helpful sometimes. They're maybe off by 3 or 4 page numbers depending on the product. So if you're going to say the PDF page, just write page 7 of the PDF or page 7 on the actual materials. That's very helpful. You're going to describe the location. It's in the top right-hand corner. It's in the call-out box on the left-hand side. It's the only picture in the middle of the page, right? You're going to tell us where to look. Then you'll include the hyperlink for the specific location. If it's thematic, you'll do that 3 times over, and then you will hit submit. Once you submit, you're welcome to send yourself your own copy, but we'll have a whole report. and then the page should reload should you have another suitability flag to flag. Where does all this information go? At the end of the review, we'll collect from that group project, right? All of the public who have left comments on suitability, all of y'all in this room are suitability reviewers in a couple of weeks, and they will generate these IMRA suitability flag reports where it will summarize all of the flags flagged by a reviewer or the public with the publisher's response published there. So it might be, again, the publisher accepts the critique and decides to make changes to their product. If so, that's listed here. And the board will have these reports before their vote. So they'll know if a publisher is committed to change something in their product before they give it an up or down vote in November. Or they'll know if a publisher has decided they're not going to make a change, and that's information that a board member needs. And additionally, this report will list the positive flags. So it'll have a count of the flags that are in the second section for excellence indicators. And again, we're flagging and tagging, and then the board members are going to make sense of the flags that we all have flagged. So it's not our job to be judge and jury for these suitability flags. It's our job to, if we see it, flag it, and then we're going to leave it up to the folks who were elected to vote on it if that rises to the level that they would say no to a product or yes. So here's the takeaways. We have a suitability rubric. It has 2 sections. There's good things and bad things. Your job is, if you see any of those things in your materials this weekend or the rest of the summer, to open that form and complete that suitability submission. In doing so, you're helping us all get to better products for the students in Texas, more clear products for teachers and school districts, and ultimately, right, we're supporting that vision of high quality, rigorous, engaged content that's suitable and appropriate for all kids in Texas moving forward. Before we go to lunch, pause there. I don't know if there's probably not questions, but we'll do my teacher pause. That'll be sufficient wait time. All right. All right, a couple of housekeeping things before lunch. You're going to be back here at 1 p.m. We're going to do one more, we're not going to PowerPoint you to death, I promise. We'll do one more training on the actual system that we use to start recording your votes for TEACS alignment, and we're going to walk through an example of that. So please be back here at 1 p.m. Publishers, you were previously told that you had to leave after lunch. You can stay for the 1 p.m. training. So you're welcome to stay for the 1 p.m. training. Then there will be a point in that training where we dismiss you and you have to leave. But the reviewers will stay here and start getting into their products. There was also maybe some information out there about a publisher meeting happening. That is not happening. So make sure, publishers, enjoy your lunch. Join us back here at 1. Folks are welcome to leave their materials here, but the doors won't be locked. So if you're concerned about your laptop or your technology, be sure to take it with you and do not leave it on the table if you're concerned about that. There are several lunch options within the hotel. You're also welcome to Uber Eats, right? But you just need to meet those folks down in the lobby. You can't tell them to come up to the 4th floor if you're going to get food driven here for you. And making sure that you're, again, back here by 1 o'clock, and then we have, there's a flyer on your table of lunch options. Thank you, Janet. There's a flyer on your table of lunch options around the hotel. But again, we encourage you, go outside, it's a beautiful day. Go grab some lunch. We'll come back here, get ready for standards alignment, and then jump into products. Thank you all for your time this morning. We'll see you at 1 o'clock.